Welcome to the Homer Method. I'm Homer, and this is the place where you'll learn how to build a solid foundation in economics and understand how money really works in real life. In today's video, we are going to explore a psychological and mathematical phenomenon that is rarely discussed in traditional finance classes, but is the secret engine behind every self-made success story you've ever admired. We are going to talk about the exact moment your life stops being a series of desperate reactions and starts becoming a deliberate strategy. Most people are lying awake at 3 in the morning, staring at the ceiling, paralyzed by a very specific kind of ghost. It's the ghost of the what if. What if the transmission in my car fails tomorrow? What if my company announces a surprise round of layoffs? What if my landlord decides to hike the rent by $400 next month? What if my child needs an emergency dental procedure that I haven't budgeted for? These aren't just thoughts. They are biological stressors that keep your body in a state of high alert, flooding your system with cortisol and preventing you from ever thinking more than 2 weeks ahead. But what if I told you there is a specific, measurable, and highly attainable financial milestone that acts as a silent assassin for these midnight anxieties? It isn't $1 million. It isn't even 100,000. The first real game changer, the moment your neurochemistry literally shifts and your relationship with reality changes, is the moment you secure your first $10,000 in liquid cash. I have spent years obsessively studying the intersection of human behavior, economic systems, and the hidden mechanics of wealth. I've watched how people move, talk, and negotiate when they have nothing, and I've watched how those same people transform once they hit that 5-figure mark. If you have ever wondered what it actually feels like to possess walkaway power, or how each dollar in that $10,000 pile changes your DNA as a decision maker, then you need to commit to this video. Before we dive into the deep end of this financial reset, do yourself a favor. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell. You aren't just watching a video, you are attending a seminar for your future self. To understand the power of $10,000, we must first look at the ancient hardware running in your skull. Humans evolved in environments of extreme scarcity. For millions of years, if you didn't find food today, you died. If you didn't find shelter tonight, you died. Our brains are hardwired for immediate survival, not long-term compounding interest. This is why saving money feels unnatural. Your brain views a dollar in your hand as a resource to be consumed immediately to ensure survival. When you have zero savings, your brain is constantly stuck in this survival mode. Living paycheck to paycheck isn't just a financial status, it is a neurological cage. When you have no margin, your brain's amygdala, the ancient part of your brain responsible for the fight or flight response, is permanently engaged. You are essentially a modern human living with the stress levels of a caveman being hunted by a saber-toothed tiger, except your tiger is a utility bill or a flat tire. When the amygdala is overactive, it hijacks the prefrontal cortex, which is the part of your brain responsible for logic, long-term planning, and impulse control. This is why people in financial distress often make impulsive purchases. It is a dopamine band-aid. Your brain is so stressed that it craves a small hit of pleasure just to keep going, even if that purchase makes your long-term situation worse. But when you hit $10,000, the amygdala finally gets the signal that the tiger is dead. For the first time in perhaps your entire adult life, your brain is allowed to relax. This reduction in cortisol doesn't just make you feel better, it actually makes you smarter. You gain back your IQ points. You begin to notice opportunities that were invisible to you when you were in survival mode. You stop asking how can I survive this month and start asking how can I own next year. This internal shift from panic to mild annoyance when an emergency strikes is the single greatest health benefit that $10,000 can buy. It is the price of your sanity and the rebirth of your long-term vision. Every day, the average person makes thousands of tiny decisions. In a dollar-based economy, almost every one of those decisions has a hidden financial cost. The generic versus name brand debate. The should I drive 5 miles to save 6 cents on gas calculation. These are not just choices, they are drains on your decision capital. Decision fatigue is a real psychological phenomenon where the quality of your choices deteriorates after a long session of making them. If you spend all day calculating whether you can afford a $3 coffee, you won't have the mental energy left to figure out a $10,000 business strategy. Now, imagine walking into your life with $10,000 in your bank account. Suddenly, 90% of those micro-calculations disappear. You don't buy the name brand pasta because you're trying to flex. You buy it because you prefer the taste, and the $2 difference is now mathematically irrelevant to your survival. You fill up your gas tank at the most convenient station because saving $2 isn't worth 20 minutes of your time anymore. By eliminating these low-level survival calculations, you free up an incredible amount of mental bandwidth. You can now use that energy for high-level tasks, learning a new high-income skill, negotiating a complex contract at work, or being truly present with your family. $10,000 buys you back your mental processing power. It turns you from a calculator into a creator. The most difficult part of saving $10,000 isn't the math, it's the identity crisis. Most people are conditioned from birth to be consumers. The entire global economy, the ads you see, the social media feeds you scroll, the credit cards in your wallet, is designed to keep you in a cycle of earning and spending. You are taught that your value is tied to what you own. When you decide to save $10,000, you are committing an act of rebellion against that system. You are shifting your identity from a consumer to a keeper. This identity shift changes your social gravitas. When you have $0, you are a beggar in the labor market. You have to accept the toxic boss, the low pay, and the grueling hours because you are one missed paycheck away from homelessness. You are operating from a place of fear, and people can smell that fear. But when you have $10,000, you possess what I call micro-sovereignty. You walk into a room differently. You negotiate with a different tone of voice. You aren't asking for a favor, you are offering your value in exchange for a fair price. If the deal is bad, you have the internal power to say no and walk away. That no is the foundation of all wealth. The person who can walk away is always the person who wins the negotiation. Ironically, once you have $10,000 and you don't need the job as desperately, you become more attractive to employers, and you often end up making more money as a result. Why is 10,000 the magic number in a dollar-based society? Because of the 95% rule. In the United States and most developed economies, 95% of the shocks that life can throw at you cost less than $10,000. A blown engine in your car? $3,000 to $5,000. An emergency root canal? $1,500. A sudden flight across the country for a family emergency? $1,200. A major appliance failing in your home? $2,000. When you have $10,000, you are effectively immune to the minor tragedies that keep the working class in a permanent state of debt. Most people handle these emergencies by putting them on a credit card at 24% interest. They then spend the next 2 years paying off that one emergency, only for another one to hit before they're finished. They are on a treadmill that never stops. With $10,000, you step off the treadmill. You pay for the emergency in cash, you feel a slight sting of annoyance, and then you move on with your life. You have effectively bought your way out of the poor man's tax. You are now playing the game of life on easy mode. There is a psychological feedback loop that begins once you hit this milestone. Saving your first $1,000 is brutal. It requires you to change your habits, fight your impulses, and say no to your friends. It feels like pushing a massive boulder up a steep hill. But saving the second 1,000 is slightly easier. By the time you are working on your 7th or 8,000, the habits are baked into your identity. You no longer have to try to save. You are simply a person who doesn't waste money. This confidence bleeds into every other area of your life. You sleep better, which makes you more productive. You are less irritable, which improves your relationships. You are more willing to take calculated risks, such as investing in a certification or a side business, because you know you have a safety net to catch you if you fall. You stop viewing money as something that happens to you and start viewing it as a tool that you control. You realize that if you could save 10,000, you can save 20. If you can save 20, you can save 100. You have proven to yourself that you are a master of your impulses, and that is a more valuable asset than the money itself. This is FU money light. It's not enough to retire, but it's enough to tell a toxic situation no thanks. We rarely talk about how money affects our friendships and family dynamics, but it is the silent elephant in the room. When you are broke, your social life is a source of stress. You decline wedding invitations because you can't afford the gift or the hotel. You feel resentful of friends who seem to spend effortlessly. You feel a deep sense of shame when a dinner bill is split evenly and you only had a side salad while everyone else had steak. $10,000 cures this social resentment. It allows you to participate in the human experience without the shadow of guilt. It also allows you to be a more generous person. When a family member is in a genuine bind, you can help them without putting your own survival at risk. You move from a state of scarcity to a state of abundance. You realize that money is a renewable resource, not a finite pie that you have to fight over. This mindset shift makes you a more attractive friend, a more stable partner, and a more respected member of your community. Once the foundation of 10,000 is laid, the wealth building game actually starts. Before this, you were just trying to survive. Now, you can actually play. With $10,000, you have enough to open a brokerage account and see the power of compound interest for yourself. You can afford to buy assets instead of just paying for liabilities. You start to understand that the person with $10,000 saved is closer to financial independence than a person earning $200,000 a year with zero savings. Why? Because wealth is not about what you make. It is about what you keep. Financial independence is a mountain. The first $10,000 is the base camp. It's the hardest part of the climb because the air is thin and you haven't built your muscles yet. But once you reach base camp, you have the equipment, the oxygen, and the experience to go all the way to the summit. If you are starting from zero today, do not be intimidated by the number. Do not look at the summit. Look at your feet. Save your first $1, then your first 10, then your first 100. Every dollar you save is a vote for the person you want to become. If you are ready to take that first step, if you are ready to stop being a consumer and start being a sovereign, then leave a comment below saying I am building my fortress. Let the world know you are no longer a passenger. Thank you for being here. Thank you for investing in yourself. I'll see you in the next video, where we'll talk about how to take that 10,000 and turn it into the foundation of a multi-million-dollar life. Stay disciplined, stay focused, and keep building.